think, David? A king's pawn, queen's pawn?
King's pawn openings have brought Wesley the most success against Magnus. Of course, Wesley can do anything, but there we go. He's back to his old favourites, and Magnus Carlsen playing, what do we call it? The Nimzovich defence, bringing the Black Knight out on the first go. This is so rare that I barely know the name of the opening, and this is something that Magnus Carlsen used yesterday against Levon Aronian. But last time, he pushed the pawn in front of the Black Queen. This time, it's his king's pawn, and we see an early trade. This is very provocative stuff. We do see a trade of pawns very quickly. And look at this, Magnus has developed his queen already on move 4. And this Black Queen is about to get kicked around. She's about to get hit. Definitely, this is one of those cases where I say, don't try it at home, kids, because that Black Queen is breaking all the rules. Queens should not necessarily lead from the front. They need to follow through, and they need to be the backup pieces. The other pieces doing the damage first, and the Black Queen jumping into holes later. But Magnus, he's playing with fire here. We do see White's Knight jumping out there. White's Knight was actually trying to jump into the centre of the board to attack that Black Queen. So Magnus pinned it with his bishop. And will we see some trades? Magnus now trying to complete development, because otherwise the Black Queen is simply out for nothing.
Yep. And it doesn't really look like Wesley has been surprised by the World Champion's choice, because, yes, he played it yesterday, this opening, this Nimzovich defence, but you wouldn't necessarily expect Magnus to repeat it again.
Yeah, very surprising. It looks like a type of one-off opening that Magnus would choose. Definitely, this one won't appear in the World Championship match, but it will give Nepomniachtchi something to study. Maybe Nepomniachtchi will have to spend a few hours, a day or two, studying this type of opening, and Magnus just trying to maybe lead a false trail for that World Championship match. Meanwhile, Black has an issue to deal with. What does Black do about his bishop that has just been attacked by this last pawn move? You can drop back the bishop in a couple of different directions, or you can trade it off for the White Knight. I don't think you want to trade off this bishop. It's too important. The dark squares will be one of the battlegrounds later, so the bishop does drop back.
Yeah, and now after that bishop retreat, we are in a totally new position, never been seen before, never been studied. So that's it. The players are now on their own.
Wow, this is the beauty of chess. At all levels, it's move 8 between two of the most experienced grandmasters in the world, but it's a new position. It's fresh territory. And there we go, Magnus just moving, manoeuvring his mouse, just hovering his fingers above the mouse. It looks like maybe he's just made a pre-move as well, just in case the White Knight captures the Black Knight in the middle of the board. But he's getting ready to use that mouse on either side. Depending on what White does, he might have to move the Black bishop on the left side of the board. He might have to castle the Black king. OK, no pre-moves from Magnus Carlsen. I was wrong there, but either way, he's getting ready for a quick reply. He knows that this is going to be a slight surprise to Wesley, even if Wesley saw this game from Magnus's yesterday. But he will hope to gain a time advantage on the clock at least.
Yeah, and just to remind everyone that we also have an ongoing selfie competition, which will finish today on the very final day of the tour. So we want to see how you are watching the finals, and you can post your selfies with the hashtag #ChessChamps. The funniest chess theme photo will win 1-year subscription of the New in Chess magazine and a signed by the players in the Oslo Arena Meltwater Champions Chess T-shirts.
Yeah, great prizes.
There is great prizes. A lot of competitions ending today. Yeah. I mean, it's a massive giveaway.
We've seen some amazing selfies so far. It's nice to put some names to, some faces to the names that we've got so accustomed to throughout the tour. Thank you so much to everyone for tweeting. And OK, meanwhile, Wesley So has traded knights, and look at this, the Black Queen sitting in the middle of the board. Oh, wow, I thought she was about to get kicked away. This is the downside of developing your queen too early. The Black Queen now in the middle could get hit by a white pawn later on. First, however, Wesley So developing the White Queen, getting ready to castle the White King over to that left side. White's Queen has actually blocked her light-squared bishop, so it makes it much more long-winded for Wesley to try and castle kingside to the right side. There we go. He's castled on the long side, and now that does signal that he wants to attack. Magnus, meanwhile, will he do the same? Will the Black King go to the same flank that the White King sits on? It looks that way. Magnus there, moving his bishop, just keeping Wesley guessing. Where will the Black King end up? What do you think, Jovanka? I'm not going to bet with you because I know you'll get it right. I'll be wrong either way.
Yeah. I'm kind of upset that my nickname for Jovanka didn't sort of get more attention. The Bet Harmon.
The Bet Harmon.
Yeah. I really like it.
Change your Twitter username.
Yeah, Bet Harmon. Yeah. I'll think about it. But no, I must admit, I must say one thing. I have been a little bit uncanny in my guesses, but I have also predicted their blunders.
You've got the human touch. That's the thing.
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of times where I'm like, well, the players have done what I asked for, but I don't like it. so yeah, I mean, it's been good and bad.
And which way then?
Which way?
Black's king. Same side as White's or the opposite side? Magnus there smiling. Maybe he knows he's keeping us guessing, not just Wesley. So
yeah, I suspect same side.
Mm-hmm. So the Black King, we expect to go off to the left. I'll say the right side just for the sake of it, although I personally would have said the same. Just judging by Black's last move as well, getting the Black Bishop out of the way, the Black Light Squared Bishop connecting the Black Rook with the King on that left side. OK, moment of truth. Magnus there, slightly frowning, just tipping his eyes off to the other side. He knows that both King moves are fine, and you're right, Jovanka, again,
yeah,
Black King.
But you also guessed that one as well. It's only because
It was 50-50.
Yes.
And there we go, Wesley so just develops his bishop. I'm very surprised, I must admit, that Wesley hasn't rushed to gain time against the Black Queen. White's pawns could step forward, gaining and hitting that Black Queen any moment that Wesley wants, but he's kept it in his pocket. And he continues to wait and delay that concept, instead bringing his rooks towards the centre. Actually, all of the 4 rooks now are perfectly placed. This is, again, textbook strategy from both players, centralising your pieces, especially those rooks. They are ready now. When the position does explode open in the middle, which it will at some point, the rooks will be primed. Mm-hmm. And, OK, Magnus, I think the key priority is how to keep that Black Queen safe. She's very vulnerable to attacks right now. And you definitely have to be careful, just in case the Black Queen gets trapped in the middle of the board.
Yes.
OK, he pushes a pawn forward.
I have to say, I'm very impressed with how Wesley has been able to get some... Magnus, has been able to get some pieces out from the back rank there, because it looks very blocked.
Yeah, very congested, right? Mm. He still struggles for space as well, because if you compare the pawn structure, White has a beautiful pawn in the middle of the board, which blocks the Black Queen, and Black's pawns are far less advanced. So that's why we talk about less space, when your pawns control more squares than your opponents. And if you have less space, then it means you're going to get a bit clogged up. Your pieces are going to be fighting for squares. And
Magnus taking some time out just to tuck his king into the corner of the board, just make sure that it's ultra safe. And I have to say one thing about Magnus. He's often not that bothered about playing with little space. He's quite excellent, actually, in just biding his time, waiting for his opponent to react. And Wesley has sidestepped with the queen, and just to make sure that the White Rook is now in the eye line of the Black Queen.
Yep. He's very good at maximising his resources, Magnus Carlsen. And look at this, he's just pushing pawns, he's just waiting. He's going to try and set up a wall of pawns and just try and hope that White can't break through later on. I don't really like it for Black. It does feel a bit passive, but if anyone can get away with it, it is Magnus Carlsen.
That's true. And to celebrate the very last broadcast of the 2021 tour. OK, so we're now the night moves. And also to celebrate the very first season, and in partnership with our friends at MasterCard, we are turning the tables when it comes to the quiz of the day. We are asking you to ask any questions that you might have about the very first season. It could be about memories, priceless moments. And to get those questions answered, remember to use 2 hashtags, priceless and chess champs. And Bishop takes Bishop on the board. And Harry Galsote asks us, what is your most embarrassing moment in chess?
Tinky Winky costume, I don't know.
Ooh, sorry about that.
Getting topless and dipping into the ice, I don't know.
In chess.
In chess. That's a tough one. It was either spilling water all over the chessboard in one of the most important matches of my life, because I was so nervous, I just spilled my water. And also, it was an electronic board, so we had to get that one changed out because it would no longer transmit any moves. It was either that or maybe, when I was on the brink of qualifying for the candidates tournament, playing one of the biggest blunders in my career. That was pretty embarrassing. It had a lot of viewers, and that one I'm still recovering from.
Yeah.
How about you, Jovanka?
Well, mine one actually made it to all the magazines as well, because I I reached an endgame and I was really proud of myself. I'd worked out that once the black rook moves, that I was just enough time to snatch the win. And it was all like fine-tuning and all dependent on black moving the rook. Black moves the king. Oh, no. And I'm like, why did I not think about this? Black is now in time to win. I've just thrown away the game. And so I make a move instantly. And then I start laughing because there's a reason I have calculated the rook moving. And that's because I was attacking the rook.
Yeah.
And it went in all the magazines. Can you believe this person attacked a rook and didn't capture it?
Yeah.
I was like, oh no, never live this one down. Okay, meanwhile, I think Magnus is working his magic because in the space of a few moves, his position has clarified a little bit. There's been a few trades. And now Magnus, although he's still lacking in space, has a little bit of pressure in the centre.
Yep, I must admit I'm very surprised by Wesley So's last few moves. This bishop retreat is OK, attacking the black queen, gaining some time there. The black queen is retreating the whole way back to safety. But yeah, the reason I'm surprised by Wesley So's decisions is that he traded a set of dark-squared bishops. And normally when you have more space, when you have the stronger pawn centre, as Wesley does now, you don't want to go for any trades. You have to avoid them at all costs. And now, because he's allowed those trades, Magnus feels much happier. Black no longer has too many pieces, so he's no longer cramped. He has plenty of squares to manoeuvre on. It does feel like Wesley So isn't playing with as much energy as we're used to seeing from him throughout the tour. Normally, if you show one sense of weakness, one sign of weakness to Wesley, he will punish you. He will take charge, he will attack and go on the front foot. This game, Magnus played a bit of a weird opening, kind of provoked Wesley, asked him to come forward, but Wesley has been taking his time, slowly manoeuvring, not quite as forceful as we're used to. And here, despite the fact the white queen is in the middle of the board, I don't think she's doing too much. And it's still going to be incredibly difficult to break through black's structure. Black's pawns, especially on the dark squares, do prevent white from stepping forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially those pawns there on the right wall. I don't like this particular formation because it's a triangle and it doesn't have a natural capability to move forward. But here, it stops white from moving those pawns forward, and that's a good thing.
It's rock solid. Yeah. And Magnus there retreats the black knight. That knight is just going to act as a defender of the black king for the next few moves. Also, just getting out of the way of its rooks. The black rooks need to be unblocked. And Wesley So doing a Magnus Carlsen type of thing there against the world champion himself, pushing pawns on the sides of the board, pushing that A pawn forward, a very Carlsen-esque type of move.
Yeah, I do quite like it. That's what we like to see from Wesley. He's asking Magnus, are you going to allow me to push that pawn even further up the board? Are you going to allow me to solidify my pawn structure there? Maybe even step the king forward eventually and connect the whole board together? And asking Magnus, what's your plan? And Magnus says, I have an answer. I'm just going to continue putting pressure in the centre.
Yeah, so Magnus Carlsen there just lifting one of his rooks up the board, and next he's going to shift his other rook behind it, and he's going to double up his rooks against white's central pawn. So white's pawn on the E line sits on a semi-open file, as we call them, and therefore it is a target. And now white is actually getting ready to do the same. So look how the black rooks have lined up against white's central pawn. Now white's rooks are going to line up and defend their central pawn, most likely. OK, will we see Wesley So immediately double up his rooks? There we go. They do defend the central pawn nicely. And black's queen is a bit redundant right now. She needs a job to do. It's not clear where she belongs. Black's knight, likewise, not clear where that belongs. White's position is still slightly more favourable. It's just easier to slowly improve, slowly step forward. But black is ultra solid. The question is whether Magnus Carlsen just wants to curl up into a ball and just stay solid and not really do too much, or whether he wants to try and strike out. And the black queen does wiggle her way forward, maybe trying to shift over to the right side of the board to harass some pawns.
Yeah, and also, I like that idea, actually. Go to the right side and start attacking pawns. And Wesley is positively encouraging that queen lift.
Yeah, so the black queen under fire. And Magnus there, OK, he moved his mouse. A bit frustrated there. Is his mouse maybe clogged up? Is his mouse maybe a bit stuck? Sometimes that happens, right? OK, Magnus hitting his mouse there, not happy at all. Maybe the tracker for the mouse has gone a bit astray.
Oh.
Yeah, OK, and we're probably going to see him call the arbiter, because that's one of the worst things on online chess, if your mouse is not working very well.
He gives a thumbs up. His clock is ticking though, but hopefully there is another mouse around. Okay, looks like the Arbiter has another mouse at hand, if needed.
Yep, it looks like the Arbiter has a wired mouse. Magnus's mouse right now is wireless, so maybe it just lost connection momentarily, and Magnus was able to make a move. It's good it happened now rather than later in the game when he had less than a minute, for example. It's good for any technical issues to make themselves known as early in the game as possible. And meanwhile, Wesley so actually sacrificing a pawn temporarily by planting his bishop in the middle of the board. So now if Black's queen gets greedy and takes one of the white pawns on the H line, then it might backfire on Black. We would see a trade of bishops and White would open up some lines towards the Black king. OK, so Magnus allows the bishop trade. He actually encourages it. He's asking White to take the bishops off the board, but he's now improved the Black knight. And also, if the bishops do depart from the board, the Black queen will have full control over the 5th rank. So the Black queen can maybe shift her focus over to the other side of the board and act as a defender. OK, provocative.
Totally provocative, especially because the Black queen can get locked out. And I can see a scenario where, OK, pawn pushes forward. I wasn't sure about that one, actually. I thought you had to be very accurate with the move order. Maybe go bishop takes bishop first and then try to lock out the Black queen along the 5th row.
Yeah, so right now, key moment for Magnus Carlsen. His knight was under fire. He trades off. And now the rooks are all looking at each other. Will we see another set of trades here? Another set of trades of rooks? Actually, can Black get greedy here and take a pawn, Jovanka, with the Black queen?
Yes.
OK, maybe Black can sacrifice a piece. I think if Magnus wants to play safe, he can trade off a set of rooks in the middle here and then retreat the Black queen and offer a queen trade and just try to eliminate every single piece from the board. But just by the fact that the evaluation bar has gone slightly over to Black's side, maybe there's something more ambitious for Black rather than playing for a draw.
So is your plan just to grab the pawn?
Yep.
And once White plays pawn takes bishop, you're actually going to be sneaky and give a check.
Yep.
And it looks like White has everything under control, just drop the knight back. Everything is covered.
OK, he doesn't go for this. This might well have been working for Black because, as you mentioned, this is a check and hitting the rook at the same time. And if White drops the knight back, now Black takes the rooks off the board and the White queen is deflected away from the protection of her knight. And actually, in this process, Black would win a pawn. Maybe even win 2 pawns after the king moves, because now Black can either take this guy or first give a check. But Magnus didn't want to take that risk. Maybe a small opportunity for him, but instead of taking this pawn, which was maybe up for grabs, he does just step back with the Black bishop. And now we've seen Wesley afraid of this pawn disappearing from the board. He's pushed it up 2 squares. And now the Black queen is a bit stuck. She needs to relocate herself. I'm expecting at some point in the near future, Magnus Carlsen to trade off this set of rooks and then drop the Black queen back, again, offering a trade. And if the queens do disappear as well, I do think that the Black bishop will be able to plug all of the light squared holes while the Black pawns control all of the dark squares. So this one, OK, actually Magnus goes for this immediately. He doesn't even hesitate. And if we do reach this endgame, White is the only one who can win because it's so blocked, and the knight can maneuver around to the right, to the left. But Black, I think, will easily be able to hold with the fortress.
Yes, I agree there. Not so many chances to win. I mean, the position is very, very blocked, and the bishop will manage to control all of the entry squares that the knight has. Having said that, I would probably keep the queens on the board. Queen and knight works better than a queen and bishop. Just on that basis, I would avoid the trade.
So no trade, just run away, maybe step back.
Yep.
And yes, the Black queen has access to this open line, but look how she can't actually enter White's half of the board. This square is protected by the White knight, this square by the White queen, this one by both the White pieces, and this one by the White queen. So Black's queen looks nicely placed, but it's just kind of fake activity. It's
fake news.
Fake news, yeah. The Black queen is not as active as she looks. And later on, the White queen and knight maybe will be a better combo than Black's queen and bishop.
Yes, and OK, interesting decision for Wesley to take.
We do see their endgame stats. If this goes into the endgame, will Wesley be a favourite?
Maybe, maybe a slight favourite. OK, he does head into the endgame. The queens are off the board now.
What a timing.
What timing, exactly. And there we see the endgame stats. 70% of endgames, Wesley wins them throughout the tour. Magnus still with great endgame numbers. We know he is the endgame maestro, but slightly lower. So right now, because it is quite balanced, It's yet to be seen who will benefit here. Maybe Wesley will try and outmaneuver black because he has more space. White's pawns are further advanced and he has the more versatile knight. Bishops normally are quite good with pawns on both sides of the board, but here black's bishop is a bit blocked. OK, so Magnus challenges for space. He tries to eliminate white's central pawn. He offers a trade, also clearing a path for the black king towards the centre.
And it's Wesley So to turn to make a decision. And whilst Wesley is pondering over what to do, we are asking you for our quiz of the day to ask us here in the studio questions. It can be your comments, it can be sharing your memories, all those priceless moments. And Durga Prasad Samantula asks us, what is the next event tournament for you three, for us three, to commentate? They love our commentary.
Oh, that's so nice.
That's very nice, yeah.
Well, of course, it's the World Chess Championship match, starting November 26th and lasting, hopefully, for almost 3 weeks, if it's going to go all the way to 14 games and maybe tie breaks. And we will be here every day to comment on that. And that will be, of course, very different because it's going to be an over-the-board classical tournament.
Yep, 1 game a day. There'll be long breaks between each move, quite likely, in classical chess. So we'll have a lot to talk about, a lot of fun to have here in the studio. Some surprises in store for you as well, maybe. So definitely join us for that one.
Yeah, and it's such a classical, big, historical event as well. You know, only 16 world champions in the history of chess. Magnus number 16, Jan Nepomniachtchi could be number 17.
Yeah.
It's just, and I've been to a couple of World Chess Championship matches as well, and it's just so intense where the players are sitting.
They're special, right?
Yeah.
Those matches. Something in the air during them, and that clearly puts pressure on the players, but also makes them prepare for the fight.
Yeah. It's going to be a huge event. Oh, I'm looking forward to it already.
Me too. And I just got distracted there because Wesley So has sacrificed a pawn in the endgame. And look at black's pawns in the middle of the board now. They are doubled. They are isolated. White also has a nice blockading square in front of those 2 black pawns. But sacrificing a pawn in any endgame is very risky. And if black, for example, can centralize his king, then those black pawns maybe later on will start to mobilize, will start to come down the board. So Wesley, really, really ambitious strategy there, but it shouldn't be too much danger if he just puts his knight in front of that pawn, in front of those 2 double pawns, and just sits. I don't think the black king will get through. What do you think, Jovanka? Do you like it?
Do I like it? I think
pawn sacrifice from Wesley?
Yeah, I think I do like it. I think it's a good chance to try to, utilise the king and the knights. But on the other hand, it's Magnus. And Magnus has kind of calculated or used this as an intuition to say that it's all OK. And that makes me a little bit worried. I'm also slightly worried that, once again, that the bishop can kind of dominate the white's entry points as well.
Yeah. As soon as the white knight tries to leap forward, trying to creep into some light squares, the bishop will lock that door and say no and control all of the light square entry points for the white knight. And talking of light squares, that black bishop does just move. So now, key moment for Wesley So. He actually wants to use the squares, the outposts in front of those doubled black pawns in the middle for both his king and his knight, but only one piece can occupy the outpost at a time. So those 2 black double pawns, they have no influence really over the dark squares in the middle. I'm expecting white's knight, or maybe the king, to sit in front of those 2 double pawns.
And in the background there, we could see Jan-Christoph Duda shaking his head. The bar is not liking the situation in his game against Hikaru Nakamura, and he could be about to go 2 points down in that match. Hikaru won also the first game. So trouble for Jan-Christoph Duda in the Oslo arena. Anish Giri has already left the arena. He has finished game 2 as well. 2 draws so far between himself and Vladislav Artemyev. And this one, Magnus Carlsen is up by 1 point. What is the most likely result in this one right now?
Despite what the evaluation bar says, I'm going to say draw.
Okay.
I don't really see this one being a win for black unless he is maybe too ambitious and pushes too hard for the win. But of course, Magnus doesn't need to do that because he won the first game of today. So there we go. Look at those 3 pawns on the right side now. Magnus has just prevented any potential incursions by the white knight. It just looks like no entry points. Black's extra pawn is doubled, so it's not really making itself felt right now. It doesn't really count as an extra pawn. And meanwhile, white can easily just set up a blockade if he wants as well. What do you think, Jovanka? Any chances for either side?
Only white has the chances to push. But I mean, I think it's also dependent on black making a mistake.
And there we go. Magnus just locks down completely, controls any squares the white knight wants to jump to. With this last pawn push as black, it's risky. You don't normally want to put pawns in the same colour as your bishop, but more importantly, you have to stop the opponent's knight jumping around, jumping into the position.
Like, one thing that I can see that white could do is actually return the sacrificed material and push his, I'm thinking, the f-pawn forward. And this might allow the king to snake its way all the way over to the right.
White's the one to pawn down, though, so that would be a second pawn sacrifice. It
Oh,
would
yes,
be
that's
returning
right. No.
the material.
Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely an idea, right? But
Right, yeah, sorry,
it would
yeah.
take courage going down a second pawn. And it looks like Magnus is just happy to mark his territory.
Yeah.
He's just moving the black king back and forth, back and forth. But Wesley now maybe trying to relocate his knight. I definitely think that's an idea for later, Jovanka, that Wesley has his eye on.
But he's kind of blocked out his king. My king is not going to get easily to the right side of the board, so...
Yeah, White's king just stuck there, holding the white pawns together on that left side of the board. It's a bit of a standoff between the two kings, actually. There's a pawn trade that is imminent, but White doesn't want to take the black pawn on that left side because then the black king steps forward, and likewise, Black doesn't want to take the white pawn on that side because then the white king would step forward. So it's just very much both players stubbornly standing their ground. And for Magnus, he'll be happy with this. For Wesley, a bit frustrating. And look as well how the black bishop keeps the white knight out. The white knight cannot jump forward. It has to retreat if it wants to find another avenue into the black position.
Yes. Yeah. You know what they say about bad bishops? Bad bishops, great defenders.
Even the worst bishop is at least equivalent to the best knight.
Although that was not worth.
That one's definitely not true, but that's what they say.
Yes.
And in this type of scenario, it is true, because the black bishop is bad, staring at its own pawns. It doesn't have any targets. Look how every piece and every pawn for white is on dart squares, so the black bishop is just hitting thin air, but it's a good defensive piece, as Jovanka mentioned. So, yeah, it holds everything together. And Wesley now making his play for victory. He does push his pawns forward on the right side. So maybe your idea in mind, Jovanka, if white can have one more move, push a pawn forward to attack the black bishop, destabilise it, maybe some faint hope of winning the game.
My big problem, though, with Wesley's choices is that I feel like he's shut his king out and he's kind of condemned it to left side of the board. And that king should be a multi-universe player, should be playing left, right, centre. And
a one-man team, playing all those positions in football.
One square at a time.
Yeah, that king, it's as if it's got a walking stick. It needs to just slowly just manoeuvre. No clear path forward for it.
An old king.
An old king,
yeah.
Leading from the front, that white king, but not happy about it.
Oh, and look at Jan-Christoph Duda's very unhappy about the situation in Game 2 against Nakamura here.
Yeah. And the pawn steps forward, you know, he looks like just from his body language, without seeing the position, I'm like, OK, he's lost.
Yeah, and Maxim Vachier-Lagrave is lost to Timur Rajabov. Game 2 just finished, so Timur Rajabov taking the lead in that match. Rajabov is fighting with Wesley So for second place. He actually has it right now, Rajabov, with half a point. Wesley So, he cannot lose this match. He will not take second place. And is he playing a little without energy today as well, David?
Yeah, it feels maybe that way. Wesley, he's playing great in this game, I must say. He's still keeping the game going. He's still the one trying to win as white. But so far, he's made no headway, made no progress. And it does feel like now, with this last move by Magnus, just completely blocking things up, there's not going to be a way through. Wesley definitely needs to try a different strategy. Normally, when I'm feeling low on energy during a chess game, I try and attack from the beginning because that forces yourself to get in the zone. You force yourself to somehow build momentum. It feels like Wesley, with a slow build-up at the beginning, kind of a quieter opening, he never really felt in love with his position, and therefore he never got that energy going. So, yeah, this one headed towards a draw. And we should also say, if Rajabov wins his next game, he's clinched it. He's clinched that second place. So not looking good for Wesley So right now. He's got to look over his shoulder. Levon Aronian is chasing him hard for that third place.
Yeah.
Imagine Wesley winning the first few tournaments, the man in form this year, but he might not even get the top three.
Wow. Yeah, that would be a shock.
That would be a big surprise. And also, Wesley does have an over-the-board tournament coming up. He is set to be playing the US Championships next week.
So that is prestigious.
That is prestigious. And also, Wesley will want to be putting himself in a good mood for that. So this is why this match is incredibly important to both players.
Will Levon be playing that as well? Is he eligible for the US Championships
He's
yet?
not. He hasn't quite made that transfer as of yet.
That will come within the next 12 months at some point, maybe in the next 6 months. But then, Levon Aronian, Wesley So, Hikaru Nakamura, Fabiano Caruana, they'll all be battling it out for that one title of American champion.
Shanklin as well in there. Dania Dominguez.
Jeffrey Young, the list goes on.
Abhimanyu Mishra, maybe not this year, but in the future.
Maybe Daniel Naroditsky will be there. That's many big names. Okay, and Magnus is just waiting with his king. And Wesley retreats the knight. And for our quiz of the day, the king steps forward. Well, in partnership with our friends at MasterCard, we are asking you at home to send us your comments, memories, priceless moments, or questions. And Jimmy's gardening allotment has a very fun question for us. He asks us, if you had to rename the chess pieces, what would you call them?
All of them. Well, we have a few names, right? So we obviously have Harry, the H-pawn. We have Alice, the A-pawn.
Yeah.
We have Elsa, the E-pawn, don't we? Let it go, let it go. Okay. Did we have, obviously, Beth, the B-pawn. And we have, obviously, David, the D-pawn.
Yeah.
I think I'm always almost through now.
Yeah.
But the D-pawn's on the queen side, though, so maybe it should have a feminine name, maybe Davina.
Yes.
Either way, not much progress being made in this game. It looks like we might be about to see a result as well. So, Gary, the G-pawn.
Yeah.
We need names for the big pieces, though, not just the pawns.
I think we can keep the king and queen. That sounds good.
Yeah. Keith the king?
Keith the king, but what can be Queenie?
Queenie the queen.
Queenie. That's not very original, though.
It's from Blackadder, Queenie.
Queenie, yeah.
Okay, meanwhile, both sides just manoeuvring. Black's pawns pretty much fixed where they are. Black's bishop defending them. Black's king also not able to step forward safely. White's king not making any inroads into the position. So, okay, a matter of moments now before Wesley. You can see on his body language, Wesley. So he is basically about to accept that draw, but it takes a few moments. It takes a bit of composure to kind of let go, finally, of your winning chances. He's going to be disappointed because Magnus played a very, very risky opening here. Just trying to wave that red flag to the bull, but Wesley didn't charge. He didn't go for Magnus. And this game, if it fizzles out to a draw, does give Magnus Carlsen a match point if he wins the next one with White. So, okay, difficult here psychologically for Wesley. It's a dead draw, nothing to do about it, but just to accept that draw and to confirm your fate is not easy. Okay. Maybe he's playing for the win. He does trade a set of pawns. This is check, however. It's a rare case of the black king moving with a check. The black king is not delivering the check, of course. The black bishop was hitting the white king there. So it's what we call a discover check. Either way, Magnus now, one of his pawns is under fire. The pawn in the centre, from White's knight. So does he simply defend it with his bishop? Yeah,
that looks like the most natural move. Take a step forward to the e6 square, and both pawns are covered. And what is Black going to do?
What is
White's
going? No progress.
It's been a long 10 days. So
it's been a long 11 months, this tour. I think the players feel it too.
Day 90, can you believe?
90 days of action, non-stop action.
Incredible.
Averaging 5 hours every day. And these players, they've been through a marathon.
Almost 500 hours in this studio. I mean, this chair is becoming my best friend.
We've warmed up these chairs by now.
And what do you think about this position? You know, has there been any real progress made? My answer is no.
No. So actually, if anything, the black king is going to be feeling really happy about itself. And that black king now has been blocked from advancing by the white pawns, but I don't feel that this has been too productive from Wesley. So, okay, maybe his idea is to bring the white king round. I'm not sure where it's going to be honest, because it can never break into the black half of the board, and Magnus will just wait. But at least he's freed up the white king. And it's all about small gains here, a moral victory. a symbolic victory. And yeah, no way forward for that white king. He does step one square to a light square. Magnus here, you can tell he's getting impatient. He knows this should be a draw. He's just moving his bishop back and forth. He actually pre-moved that last bishop retreat because he would have played it against any possible white reply.
And here, I was just going to ask, is Magnus being a little bit careless now? Because white can potentially give a check with the pawn. OK, he's trying it now. So here, Magnus has to be a tiny bit careful. Unfortunately, Magnus spots the threat, which was to push up the b-pawn and give a check to the black king and drive it away.
Yeah, so black wants to meet any potential check from a white pawn with a capture, and if we do see a trade of pawns on the left side, then the black king is going to step closer to the white position. He's going to step down onto the 4th rank. So that's why Magnus Carlsen pushed away the white king. The white king was actually trying to block the advance of the black king. And that's the issue for Wesley. So you can't use the light squares for your king. You can only use the dark squares. And, OK, we've been here before. This is the second time we've seen this position. The white king going back where it came from, but no progress still. I think Wesley is running out of ideas slowly. We can't blame him. It is an objectively drawn position, but maybe he's just trying to tire out the world champion. Magnus has had a long few weeks.
Yeah.
So maybe just keeping this game going with a view to the next few games, maybe putting the pressure on there. That must be the strategy for Wesley. So, OK, he's brought his king back round to where it came from. Again, the white king was here several turns ago. And now Magnus, most likely, he'll just retreat his bishop.
Yes, and whilst we're waiting for the dancing with the bishop and knight to continue, I have another question from our quiz of the day, where a flower out in Westfield is asking, the opening ceremony looked fun. What usually goes on in chess openings/closing ceremonies? Any fun stories, especially since this time there was Anish and Duda too?
Good question.
Oh.
I know that we played some hand of brain games with Anish, right, Jovanka?
Yeah.
Yeah, Kaja, you were the MC for a while, asking the players some questions.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, it's nice to see them relaxed as well, just chatting away.
Definitely, yeah.
And
I do have news for you, because I saw it on social media, that it is the last day today, and Anish Giri is feeling relaxed. He has taken the challenge on the world record attempt, so we will see that later. They have recorded it for us.
Hey,
we will see it later. Yes.
Oh, I hope he gets slower than 38 seconds, so I get bragging rights.
Yeah.
It'll be unfair if he's talented at that as well. We saw him winning the quiz at the Good Night. He's a great chess player. If he's great at, if he's got the speed as well, the hand-to-eye coordination, then
yeah,
that's just greedy.
That is just greedy. And meanwhile, it does look like white has made a tiny bit of progress, but the black king and bishop, they've just warded off any future pawn advancements that white may have.
Yeah, and actually the black doubled pawns in the centre, despite the fact they're blocked, they do control squares, and simply no way through. Black's king and the black pawns control the dark squares. Black's bishop controls the light squares. And yeah, right now, Wesley trying, credit to him. He's not giving up hope. This is a good lesson for everyone at home as well. Just persevere, put your opponents under pressure, tire them out, bore them to death if you have to. But either way, playing a game out is like this is the only way you learn about endgames. So great from Wesley. So, and he's definitely trying to bore Magnus to death right now. Magnus, you can tell on his body language there, exhaling. He knows it's going to be a draw this game. That's almost a guarantee at this point, but he's being forced to work hard for it. He's being forced to earn his money, forced to earn the right to call himself the tour champion. And Magnus eventually gets tired of waiting and pushes his pawn forward to a light square.
But that was a risky decision, actually, because that pawn could potentially be surrounded.
Yeah, very risky decision from Magnus. Normally, again, the strategy is that you don't want to put pawns on the same colour as your bishop, because then you tie down your bishop as a defensive piece. I think Magnus is just arguing that he has a rock-solid fortress. The white knight can never move later on, because then the black king might have a path through towards the white pawns. And there we go, a bit of a standoff maintained by the kings. And, Wesley just teasing Magnus again by moving his king away. He's hoping that black's pawn pushes on that left side, because then the white king will race back across and capture it. But Magnus, he knows that he doesn't need to touch anything anymore. He knows that, you can see in his body language, he knows there's no way through if he just sits and waits. And yeah, Magnus gaining lots of time. He's back to almost 13 minutes after 81 moves now. This is, maybe he just wants to get to 100.
Yeah. Maybe go for your record, David, on, what was it,
236 is my record. Actually, Wesley here, he could move his king around 50 times, then push a pawn, then go around again 50 times, just to navigate the...
And the arbiters and everyone goes, no.
Yeah. Please don't, Wesley. Please don't do that.
No, but I mean, I have to say, it is a little bit special and a work of art when you see it being done and being done well.
And especially if it ends up with a win, of course,
Exactly.
then we completely understand it.
Yeah, totally. And it's all about getting your opponent to take those weaker choices and just watching them crack. It's a bit sadistic, actually.
We saw it, though, in the electric shock chess game that me and Askill played. Magnus, he does have that sadistic streak.
Yeah. He even admitted it.
Yeah, he likes to torture his opponents. And... OK, right now, Wesley is the one torturing Magnus, really making him work for this draw. So there's no way through. Black is the one sitting and waiting. White is the only one who can make progress. But there we go. The position repeats itself 3 times eventually, and it is finally a draw.
Magnus Carlsen, OK, still sitting there, though, looking over this. But he is now still up by 1 point in this match, winning the first game. 2 rapid games to go. Wesley, so we'll have to win one of those games to take it to tiebreaks. It is looking so far good for Magnus Carlsen on the final day of the tour. He will have the white pieces in the next game coming up in 16 minutes. And he's heading into the lounge. Maybe he will do the world record attempt. Maybe. Or will he walk back to his lounge?